see it anywhere. It doesn't matter if somebody sees it. You know what these? Shalom Aleichem. Shmuel Silber. Nice to meet you. From where?
I'm from New York. They give a great chairs.
Come on. Make yourself comfortable. Good. You could sit. You could sit right over here. There's plenty of seats. Come, Mike. You never offer me coffee. Yeah, mamish. All right. All right, we'll say good morning. Today's daf is Kuf Hey 105. We are picking up Kuf Dalet Amud Beis 104b. Last two lines on the daf. So remember again, we have the great schus to begin. Perek Kol HaBasra began at yesterday, and again we've already begun to see the incredible sugyas here involved with the halachos of basar b'chalav. So now we're also going to continue a little bit with that. So Tanya, Beishamai Omrim. So we'll say here the Gemara is as follows. Well, let's read it and then we'll explain the context. Beishamai Omrim, Mekaneach ubeisila Omrim Madiach. So we'll say we're assuming over here. And again, this is going to get clarified in a little bit of time, but we are assuming over here that we're referring to a situation where a person eats cheese and afterwards they're going to go ahead and eat meat. So says the Gemara, Beishamai Omrim, Mekaneach ubeisila Omrim Madiach. So we'll say, what do you have to do between the consumption of cheese and meat? So Beishamai says, Mekaneach. You have to go ahead literally and clean out your mouth. Now we'll discuss what cleaning out your mouth actually means. Beisila Omrim, Beishamai Omrim Mekaneach, you have to clean out your mouth. Beisila Omrim Madiach, you wash out your mouth. So my Mekaneach, my Madiach. So ask the Gemara, what do these terms mean? Both side top of Kuf He Amud Aleph. Ilema Beishamai Omrim Mekaneach v'lo Boi Madiach. If you say that Beishamai means you just have to clean out your mouth, you just have to wipe out your mouth, but you don't have to wash it out. Ubeisila Omrim Madiach v'lo Mekaneach. And Beisila says you only have to go ahead and wash it out, but you don't have to clean it out. So Bosi, here's the problem with that. Elahadam Rabbi Zera Ein Kinuach Pa Ela Bepas. So also Rabbi Zera said that Likaneach, the lashon of Mekaneach, means you clean out your mouth with bread. So what we're going to see what that actually means is you chew on bread, not for the sake of bread consumption, but by chewing on bread, again, because of the nature of bread, when you chew down on it, it will extract that which is absorbed into the mouth, specifically that which is stuck in the teeth. If you push it against the palate, it'll take out that which is on the palate. So when Rabbi Zera says, "Ein kinuach ela b'pas kiman," whose opinion does that reflect? To which the Gemara says, Ki Beishamai. Rather, that has to refer ultimately again to the position of Beishamai. So we'll say, Ella Beishamai omrim mekaneach v'lo boi madiach, ubeisila omrim af madiach. So we'll say, if that's the case, maybe what's happening over here is as follows. Beishamai says that when you go ahead and you eat cheese and you then want to eat meat, so Beishamai says, mekaneach v'lo boi madiach. So ultimately, again, what do? You have to wipe out your mouth with bread. Again, we're going to define these processes in just a moment. And you don't require washing. And I'm both saying, now washing over here, remember, we spoke a little bit about washing yesterday. It was referring to washing what? Not washing your mouth, but rather what? Washing your hands. Out of a concern that if you handled cheese, some of that cheese residue may be on your hand and therefore may be transferred to the meat that you're going to consume. So now perhaps what we're suggesting is as follows. Beishamai says, Mekaneach v'lo boi madiach, ubeisilo omrim af madiach. And Beisilo says, no, that when you eat cheese, you have to do two things. You have to wash your hands and you have to clean out your mouth with the consumption of bread. If that's the case, Abosai, then it turns out that what? Beisilo is more chomer than Beishamai, because Beishamai only requires you to wipe out your mouth with bread between cheese and meat. Beisilo is requiring you to go ahead and wipe out your mouth and wash your hands. And if that's the case, Beis Hillel is being more machmir than Beis Shammai. And if that's the case, Havile Mekuli Beis Shammai Umechumre Beis Hillel. I will say if that's the case, then it would turn out a situation where Beis Shammai is mekel and Beis Hillel is machmir. If that is the case, v'listniye gabe kuli Beis Shammai v'chumrei Beis Hillel, then I will say it should be listed. Remember again, we saw this referenced in yesterday's daf. There are 6 cases where Beis Hillel is more machmir than Beis Shammai. Those cases were listed. This is not listed amongst those cases, which would seem to indicate to us that halacha l'maisa, this is not one of the circumstances where Beis Hillel is machmir, Beis Shammai is mekel. So how do I understand the machlokes? Elo, Beis Shammai omrim mekaneach v'hu adin l'madiach, or Beis Hillel omrim madiach v'hu hadin l'mekaneach. So both sides, to which the Gemara says, in reality, they are in fact not arguing, but in fact they both say the same halacha, which is they both require what we call kinuach and hadacha between cheese and meat. That between the act of eating gevina and basar, you are going to both be required to wash your hands as well as wipe out your mouth with bread. Each of them are just simply stating a different part of that process. Beis Hillel omrim madiach v'hu adin l'mekaneach. So we'll say ultimately, I'm sorry, let me read that again. Beis Shammai omrim mekaneach v'hu adin l'madiach. Beis Shammai says you need kinuach and hadacha, and Beis Hillel says you need hadacha as well as kinuach. Mar amar chada umar amar chada v'lo pligi. Each one is simply referencing one of the 2 processes, and they are not arguing. So both say, so this is actually quite interesting. Halacha l'maisa, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel are agreeing that in between the act of eating cheese and meat, one requires both kinuach as well as hadacha, washing of hands, as well as a cleaning out of the mouth with bread. So let's analyze this a little bit more. So we'll say, obviously, we're going to have to get into this halacha. Is this actually required? When is it required? We'll see. Gufa. Rabbi Zera. So let's analyze a little bit more. So Rabbi Zera says as follows: Ein kinuach hapeh ela b'pas. I will say when we speak about a cleaning out of the palate, so what is that a cleaning out of the palate with? Only bread. Only bread. I will say bread. It's dafka bread that is used for this process. Now, what kind of bread? This is actually quite interesting. V'hani mili b'dechiti. We'll say this only applies to wheat bread. Aval b'tis sa'ari lo, but with barley bread, no. What's wrong with barley bread? Take a look at Rashi. B'disari lo, mipnei shemisparer b'soch hapeh, v'no niksha yachad kishalo aso lefichach eno mikanech. So we'll say apparently barley bread crumbles in the mouth. If you think about this, by the way, what's the idea of using bread for kinuach? What's the idea? The idea is that it forms a solid mass, right? It forms a solid mass. So you want the type of bread that when you put it in your mouth, it compresses, right? And it's going to extract anything that is pressed upon it. Barley bread apparently crumbles. And because it crumbles, ultimately, again, therefore, it doesn't accomplish the same goal. And furthermore, again, even with wheat bread, what type of wheat bread do you use? Ela bikarira, only with cold wheat bread. Aval bechamima, but hot wheat bread, warm wheat bread, what happens? Mishtar shtari. So we'll say mishtar shtari also means that it goes ahead and falls apart. It falls apart. So because it falls apart, therefore again, halacha l'mais, it doesn't accomplish the task. V'hani mili berekika. But ultimately, again, we'll say furthermore, this is only when it's soft. Ava be'ekusha lo. And ultimately, again, but when it's hard, it does not work. So as I say now, we're defining not only do you need to use bread, but all the bread with all these different qualifications. But v'hilchasa. But I will say, but bottom line, what can you use ultimately, again, for what we call kinuach, a cleansing of the palate in between cheese and meat? B'chomili havi kinuach. Well, in reality, you can use anything. You can use anything, with the exception of, you can use anything except for the things that you can't. Right? Which are, what's about say lebar, mikimcha, you can't use flour, tamri, dates, viyarka, vegetables. So we'll say, so different one of these things you can't use for different reasons. Some are too soft, some are too sticky, and some just simply, again, do not stay together. So we'll say, so the idea is, the bottom line, the goal is that what? That in between the consumption of cheese and meat, halacha l'maisa, one should go ahead and clean out their palate in some way. So we'll say, so this is actually quite interesting. So the Shulchan Aruch writes as follows. This is in Siman Peites Sif Beis. So the Shulchan Aruch writes, Achal Gvina, mutter le'echol acharav basar miyad. What person eats cheese, you're permitted to eat meat right afterwards. However, ubilvad she'ayin yadav shelo yehi shum davar me'agvina nidbak bahem. You have to do a visual inspection of your hands to make sure you have no cheese on your hands. If you're eating cheese at night, you wake up in the middle of the night, you have a strong desire for cheese, you don't want to turn on the lights to wake anyone up, you eat cheese, that's fine, you could eat meat right afterwards, but because you don't have light to look at your hands, ultimately you should wash them. And I will say, ideally, we like the idea of washing out the mouth or cleaning out the mouth in between the consumption of meat and cheese. So first of all, number one, we see that what we call the hadacha, the washing of hands, is only a necessity where visual inspection is not possible. But if you could visually inspect the hands, that is more than enough. So what we'll say, ultimately, interestingly enough, Halacha l'maisa, the Shulchan Aruch then says that you could wash out your mouth as well. So we'll say, so bottom line, halacha l'maisa for us, the Shulchan Aruch gives us the ability to clean out the mouth not with a food item, but with a liquid, with water. And this indeed is the halacha l'maisa. If a person ate cheese and they want to eat meat, so again, you don't have to wait, but halacha l'maisa, it is best to wash the hands if you can't see your hands, or if you have a chashash that there might be some kind of schmutz. And furthermore, again, to wash out your mouth in between the consumption of cheese and meat. That's the bottom line, halacha l'maisa. Now, and by the way, the Shulchan Aruch points out, this is dafka between cheese and meat, not between cheese and chicken. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I will say, but what's interesting about this is as follows. Actually, we'll see. Again, that's the basic halacha. We'll expound on it as we go forward. Here we go. We get into the very exciting sugya about waiting now. So up until now, we've been speaking about from cheese to meat. Now we're going to speak about from meat to cheese. The halachos of waiting in between basar and cholov. Rabbi Asim, Rabbi Yochanan, kama yisha bein basar legvina. How much do you have to wait between meat and cheese? We'll say, get ready for this. Amar lei v'lo klum. You don't have to wait at all. You don't have to wait at all. In other words, we'll say, obviously, you can't, right? Stay, don't go anywhere, right? So we'll say, so obviously, again, you can't eat them together. But they're asking over here, I'm going to eat them in succession. How long do I have to wait between the consumption of meat and cheese? So we'll say, the first answer is, you don't have to wait. What are you talking about? Ini, is that true? V'hamar of chista. Achol basar, echa asar le'echol gvina. If you ate meat, you are not permitted to eat cheese. Gvina, mutter le'echol basar. If you ate cheese, you are permitted to eat meat. Elakama yisha bein gvina lebasar. So rather, he's asking, how much do you have to wait in between the consumption of cheese and meat? Amar le'velo klum. So we'll say that's nothing. So we got the question wrong. The question wasn't how long do you have to wait between meat and cheese. The question was how long do you have to wait between cheese and meat. And the answer to that was what? Nothing. You don't have to wait between the consumption of cheese and meat. Now again, you don't have to wait, so there's no time restriction. But halacha l'maisa, as we just saw, that what? There are behavioral restrictions. So I do have to, under certain circumstances, wash my hands. I do have to, in certain circumstances, clean out my mouth. Gufa, here we go. Amar Rav Chista. Achol basar, asar le'echol gevina, gevina mutar le'echol basar. So Rav Chista says, if you ate meat, you're not allowed to eat cheese. If you ate cheese, you're permitted to eat meat. Amalei Rav Acha bar Yosef, Rav Chista, basar shebein hashinayim. So we'll say, now we're going back for just a moment. We're going to focus now on how long you have to wait between meat and cheese. So the Gemara asks, so we'll say, to answer this shaila, we have to go back and focus on a yesodistic idea, which is, I eat meat. Meat gets stuck in my mouth, between my teeth. What is the status of meat between the teeth? Does that have the status of basar or not? So mahu, Kari Aleis, he said it does. Habasar odenu ben shinehem. We'll say ultimately again, the pasuk says over here, by the slav, right, in the midbar, ultimately again, the meat was still between their teeth. Obviously, this was not a good pasuk. This is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes them for the slav. But the point over here is that what do you see from this pasuk, Rabbi saying? That even when the meat is stuck between your teeth, it's still called what? Still called meat. And if it's still called meat, that means I have meat in my mouth. If I have meat in my mouth, then I have to figure out what does that mean in terms of my obligation to wait until the consumption of milk. So what that tells, so what the Gemara is just establishing over here is if basar bin hashinai, meat between the teeth, is still called meat, one thing I know for sure, which is I can't eat cheese immediately after eating meat. The shaila now that's going to come up is how long do I have to wait? Here we go. Amalei Mar Ukva. So Mar Ukva said, Ano loha milsa chala bar chamra legabe abba. So Mar Ukva said, in this matter of waiting between meat and milk, I am like wine, the son of vinegar, which also means I am inferior to my father. Why? Di'ilu abba ki hava achal bisra ha'idno lo hava achal gvina ad lamachar. This is actually pretty incredible. So Mar Ukva says, my father, if he would eat meat today, he wouldn't eat cheese for 24 hours. He waited a day. He mamish waited a day before eating cheese. V'ilu ano, and Mar Ukva said, but me, bahas su'uda hudalo achilna, I don't eat meat and milk in the same meal, but l'su'udasa achrina achilna. But I will eat it in what? In a separate meal. So we'll say this is actually quite interesting. So our Ukva says, I won't eat meat and milk together in the same su'udah, but I will eat them in separate su'udah. So I will say, if you take a quick look at Tosis, you see on the left-hand side, l'su'udasa achrina achilna. So we'll say, so the shaila is, what does this mean in a different su'udah? So Tosis says something amazing. Lav b'su'udasa sheregilan la'asos achos shachris va'achos arvis. This doesn't mean in the meals that one eats in the morning, one eats in the evening. Ela afilu la'alter im silek ha'shulchanu beirach mutter de lo plug rabbanan. So we'll say this is actually quite dramatically amazing. We'll say, just so you know, the whole sugya of how long you have to wait, 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 5.5 hours, 6.5 hours, right? Not at all, but that's not on the table anymore, right? We took that off. So we'll say, so that's all from this sugya. Mar Ukva's statement itself is a subject of much controversy, because Mar Ukva says, I won't eat meat and milk in the same su'udah, but I'll eat them in one su'udah after. So Tosis understands Mar Ukva's statement to mean, I won't eat them together in the same su'udah, but if I eat basar, I bench, I clear off the table, I will go ahead and eat milk right afterwards. That's how Tosis understands Mar Ukva's statement. Others understand the Rishonim understand Mar Ukva's statement to mean no. We'll say Suda to Suda means, historically, they used to eat a morning Suda and a late afternoon Suda, a dinner Suda. There was often up to how much time between those Sudos? 6 hours. That's what it means, su'uda l'su'uda. So again, we'll get more into these sugyas, but just understand this statement of Mar Ukva is probably the most important statement in this sugya of waiting between meat and milk. Amar Shmuel. So we'll say now that Mar Ukva made a statement comparing his practices to his father's practices. We have a couple of other statements like this. So Amar Shmuel, Analaha milsa chala bar chamra legabe abba. So in this particular matter, I am like vinegar, the son of wine. I am inferior to my father in this matter. How so? The ilu abba havasayir nechase trezim biyoma. Father would go out and inspect his properties twice a day. Va'ana lo sayrna ela chada zimna. And I only go out to inspect my properties once a day. Damar Shmuel. So Shmuel Tame. So we'll say Shmuel goes according to his reasoning. Because what does Shmuel say? Damar Shmuel. Man desire nechase kol yoma mashkach astira. Whoever goes out to check on his properties during the day, ultimately again will find coins. So we'll say, by the way, this is not a metaphor. This is actually quite literal. So Shmuel is saying over here, I have real estate holdings, right? I've come from a real estate family. He says, my father used to inspect his properties twice a day. So me, I'm inferior. I only inspect my properties once a day. Because Shmuel said, if you inspect your properties multiple times a day, right, then what happens? You'll find money. What does it mean you'll find money, Rabbi saying? If you're on top of your properties, if you're on top of your business dealings, you'll be able to catch waste, you'll be able to catch theft, you'll be able to catch damage, as we'll see in just a little bit. So we'll see the Gemara. So I'll just say something interesting. So the Chazon Ish comments on this, And he says, what does this mean? So Shmuel says he's inferior to his father because his father checked the properties twice a day, and he only checked the properties once. Then I can make the argument that what? Shmuel's superior to his father. After all, again, his father was in the business world twice a day, checking the properties twice a day, and Shmuel only did it once a day. Right? Isn't that even better? So the Chazon Ish says something absolutely amazing. He says, Ha'aba haya b'madrega kizu sheyuchal laleches kama pamim bayom. Hukvar igila madrega zu. Ve'ilu ani im elech kama pamim biyom matzavi lo yihiyeh tov. The Chazon Ish says something amazing. Shmuel was saying, my father is on such a high level that even when he needs to go out into the world to check on his real estate, he's able to maintain his lofty spiritual status. Me, I go once, and already it's challenging. So you both say, the goal of the Jew is to be able to go into the world, check on your properties, right, and still maintain your incredible hislavos and inspiration as a Jew. The challenge we all encounter is that we're going to go into the world and have to deal with many worldly things. So sometimes that eish, that fire, that hislavos becomes dampened. Shmuel says, my father was on the level that he can go out to check the properties multiple times a day, but yet again he still maintained his level of inspiration. Me, I go once, and it's challenging. Pretty incredible. So Abaye, so what's the Gemara talks about maintaining your properties, or inspecting your properties, I should say. Abaye, have a sayr nechase kol yomo. Kol yomo b'yomo. Abaye would go out to inspect his properties every day. So Yom Echad, one day, Paga ba'ari se dedari pischa de'ufi. Suppose listen to this. One day, he saw one of his workers going home with a pile of wood. So he saw one of his workers stealing from him. Amar lei hani lehechas. He says to his worker, by the way, where are you taking that? So Amar lei lebeimar. So the worker said, oh, Rabbi, I'm bringing it to your house. So Abaye says, yeah, right. Amar lei kavar kidmucha rabbanan. The rabbis were already ahead of you. So we'll say, so the Gemara is just backing up over here the idea, which is actually quite interesting that Chazal are telling us this, which is keep an eye on your business holdings, right? Be on top of your business affairs, because if you don't, ultimately, again, you will suffer losses. Rav Asi have a sayur nechase kol yom. Listen to this. Rav Asi used to go and inspect his properties every day. Amar heicha ninhu kol hani astiri de Mar Shmuel. Where is all of this money that Mar Shmuel promises? Because remember again, Shmuel said that if you go out and you inspect your properties, so what's going to happen? You'll find coins, which is another way of saying that if you inspect your properties, so ultimately again you'll save yourself some significant money. So Avasi went out every day and he wondered to himself, where are all the coins? Where's all the money? One day he's walking in his party, and what did he see? He saw ultimately a pipe that had sprung a leak. And again, Rashi points out, had that leak not been noticed, the water would have rushed through the pipe, and what would have occurred? It could have destroyed all of the crops. He took off his cloak, he tied it around the leak in the pipe. Ramakala, he raised his voice, Asu inshi sachruha. And people came, his workers came, and they repaired the broken pipe. Ashkech sinhu lekula istardim Shmuel. And he found all of the coins of Mar Shmuel. So I'll say ultimately again, he went ahead and he found all of the broken coins. He found all of the coins, i.e. in that he was able to save himself from all this. So we'll say, I forgot to mention that that the daf this week, is dedicated by Dr. and Mrs. Gardenhouse for Refuah Shlema for Orit Penina Bas Meira. We hope that she, together with Kol Choli Yisrael, has a complete and enduring refuah. All right, so let's go back to Amar Vidi bar Avin, Amar Yitzchak bar Ashyan. We'll say, here we go. We're jumping around a little bit, but these are all incredible sugyas. Mayim Rishonim mitzvah. We'll say Mayim Rishon. What does Mayim Rishon refer to? Netila sedayim before a suda. Washing before a meal. Washing before a meal is a mitzvah. Vachronim chova. But Mayim Achronim is an obligation. So let's remember again the difference. Mitzvah means something nice, but not necessarily binding, as opposed to chova, which means obligatory. Meisve, is that true? Mayim Rishon and Achronim chova. We have a brisa that says that both Mayim Rishon and Achronim are both obligatory. Both say first of the wide lines on Kuf Hamad Aleph. Emtsoim Rishus, the middle waters. I will say now, what does Emtsoim refer to? This refers ultimately again between the act of washing between one cooked dish and another. We're going to get into this as well. To which the Gemara says, it's calling over here, my mishonim, not a mitzvah, but a chova. To which the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, mitzvah, legabe rishus, chova karile. Ultimately, again, it calls my mishonim a chova, because when you compare it ultimately again to a rishus, it's called a chova. Fine. Gufa, my mishonim achronim chova. Washing before a meal and washing my achronim is obligatory. Rishus, but washing in between courses, that's going to be optional. Rishonim notlin bein bekli bein agabe karka. My Mishonim will say before, meaning when you wash before your meal, you could go ahead and wash with a kli, right? Bein bekli bein agabe karka, whether in a kli or on the ground. Achronim ein notlin ela bekli. He'll say my machronim can only be washed into a utensil, which will say means when you wash my machronim, you cannot pour that water onto the ground. That water has to go into a utensil. Va'amrile, a notlin al gabe karka. Others say that you can't wash onto the ground. My ben Abba say, so remember, so one girsa says, my machronim have to be washed into a utensil. Others say you can't wash it into the ground. What's the nafkamina? My ben Ayu, ikbenayu kinsa. Say, can you wash my machronim on top of wood chips? So if you hold that it can't go into the ground, wood chips are not the ground. But if you hold that it has to go into a kli, then wood chips are not sufficient. We'll see what the issue of my machronim is. My mishram will say you could wash with hot water or with cold water. Achronim in notlin ela betzonin. My machronim could only be washed with cold water. Why? So as we're going to see, there are multiple reasons for my achronim. One of them is to get the schmutz off your hands from your meal before benching. Warm water often causes the grease to soak in. Cold water allows you to get the schmutz off. My shonim notlin bein mechamin bein mitzonis. Remember, we just said before that when you wash before a meal, you could wash with warm or with cold water. Amr Yitzchak Bar Yosef Amr Yanai Lo Shanu Ela Shein Hayad Soledes. We'll say that's only true when we say that my Mishana could be washed. Ultimately, again, bein mechamin bein mitzonin. That's only if it's not yad soledes on the base. However, aval yad soledes bain ein notlin bain. But if the water is yad soledes, ultimately, again, you cannot use it to wash. V'ikadem masni la seifa. Others explain this on the seifa. We'll say Amud Beis, third line down. Achronim ein notlin ela betzonin. My machronim can only be washed ultimately with what? With cold water. Aval b'chamin lo, but not with warm water. Amr Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amr Rabbi Yanai, Lo Shanu Ela Sheyatzo Ledes Bahen. That's true only if Rosa Yasledes means it's really hot. Aval Ina Yatzo Ledes Bahen Notlin. But if Yatzo Ledes ultimately again is not, if it's not Yatzo Ledes, then you can use it. Michlal, the Rishonim Af Api Shayatzo Ledes Bahen Mutter, which tells you that what Rabbi say when it comes to my Rishonim, you could even use it even if it is Yad Soledes Bahen. Fine, so we'll say, so just you should know, halacha l'maisa, Shulchan Aruch paskins as follows. Ein notlin bechamin mipnei shayad nichvis bahen, mipnei shemefafanes hayadayim ve'in ma'avin asazumah. So we'll say, bottom line, mayim rishonim, when you wash before a su'udah, you could use warm water or you could use hot water. You could use whatever you want. Mayim achronim requires cold water. That's the halacha Rabbi say. That's how Shulchan Aruch paskins. Good. So let's go weiter. Amrav Nachman, Lo Shanu Ela. I'm sorry. Amrav Nachman, Lo Shanu Ela bein tavshil tavshil. No, I'm skipped. Emtsoim rishos. So let's remember again, the waters, the middle waters, meaning, so we have three different times you're washing. You're washing before a meal, you're washing after a meal. The washing before the meal we've established, you could use whatever water temperature you want. My machronim ultimately again requires cold water. My mishor, you want to wash on the ground, you can wash on the ground. My machronim cannot be washed on the ground, but rather have to go into a kli. What about my memtsoim? What about ultimately again the middle waters? So memtsoim rishus. The middle waters, right? So we'll see what that means in just a moment. Are optional. Amrav Nachman lo shon ela bein tavshil tavshil. But say that's only true when you're washing between one cooked dish and another. Aval bein tavshil gvina chova. So we'll say, when do we say that washing in the middle of a suda is a rishus? That's only about say you have multiple courses, right? You're going to have your soup, you're going to have your meat, you want to wash in between them, that's your own business. But We'll say if halacha lemaisa, bein tafshil legvina, if you're going to go from cheese to meat, then Rabbi says, we established before, there is an obligation to go ahead and wash your hands. Now again, as we mentioned before, when is there an obligation to wash your hand in between cheese and meat? So we'll say that's when? Only if you can't see. Nighttime, good. So Amar Rav Yehuda Rabbi Chia. Mipnei ma amru my machron chavra. Listen to all these incredible sugyas today. Why is it that my machronim is obligatory? Shemelech sdomis yeshim mishames hayin. Because I will say there was this thing called sodomite salt from stone. And what would happen if you would put salt from stone in your eyes? It could chas v'shalom cause blindness. Because it could cause blindness, Chazal instituted my machronim. That removes any type of salt residue from my eyes. Amr Abayi says, Umishtachach ki korta bekura. And I will say even a very small amount of melach stomis, like a korat. I will say korat means even like a granule in a core of salt, which is a very minute amount, could cause significant damage. Amr Ali Rav Acha Breidi Rav Ravashi Kol Milchamai. I will say what happens not in the Suda, but let's say I'm just measuring out salt. So do I have an obligation to wash my hands afterwards? Amr Lei Lo Mi Boy. Of course, I will say if you're measuring out salt, you're handling salt, of course you have to wash your hands after you finish with that in order to avoid going ahead and chas v'shalom blindness. So I will say, the Gemara says, Amar Abaye Mirish, Hava Amina, Hadulo. So I just want to point out over here, so this discussion on Ma'amar Achronim we saw is an extensive discussion in Berachos. So here the Gemara again says, why do you have to wash my machronim? You wash my machronim ultimately again because of melach sdomis. That was the original reason. This sodomite salt to get it off my hands because chashav could cause blindness. So already again the Rishonim comment, we really no longer have this salt, and therefore again perhaps there's an obligation of my machronim. But there's another din of my machronim, which is what? Mishum nikios. Ultimately again as a form of cleanliness prior to reciting Birkas Hamazon on a tila before benching, just to make sure that my hands are clean. So I'll say, so therefore again, you'll see different approaches. Many people today no longer do my machronim because the ikar reason for the zakana, i.e. melech stomis, is no longer there. But because there is the nikios factor, therefore many still maintain this practice of washing prior to go ahead and reciting Birkas Hamazon. Good. Amr Abayi. So Abayi said, Mirish Hava Amina. We'll say first wide line, Kuf Hamid base. First wide line, 105b. So Abayi said, originally I thought, Haidelo Mashu Maya Basrai Al Ara Mishum Zuama. It used to be, Abayi says, that I thought people, when they watch my machronim, they don't pour the water out on the ground. Instead, what do? They pour the water into a utensil. So I used to think the reason why people didn't do that was because sometimes because that water has the schmutz from your hands, it doesn't smell good. So to put that water on the ground causes a putrid odor. However, Amar li Mar, Mishum Deshaya Ruach Ra Alayu. But then Mar told me, I will say that there's another reason, which is there is a Ruach Ra, a spirit of impurity that rests upon the water of my machronim, and therefore again you don't want it in a place where the public can trample upon. Rather you want it contained in a kli, ultimately that could be poured out afterwards. Incredible. This is an interesting practice. If you're at the table with someone and they're drinking, you should not take something from in front of them while they're drinking, right? So again, Ruvain's having a good drinking. I shouldn't take a food item from in front of him while he's drinking. Why not? I used to think it was because Shema Yar Darakal Kala Besuda, because maybe he's going to tell me, no, don't take that. I'm not finished with that yet. And what's going to happen? He's going to try to talk to me while he's drinking. And what's going to happen? He's going to choke Chas v'Shalom. But Amar li Mar Mishum Dekashi L'Ruach Tzirada. So I'll say, so apparently again, there's another reason, which is what? Because ultimately, again, apparently there's some type of negative spirit that could devolve upon the person in the midst of this. If I try to go ahead and talk while I'm drinking because someone's taking away my plate or someone's taking away my food, there apparently is this negative ruach, this negative spirit that could devolve upon me. We're going to speak a little bit about the esoteric spirit world today. I can translate it, but don't understand it. Furthermore, again, that's only a problem if you're taking something off the table and you're not putting it back. Aval mishkal v'hadure less than but if you're going to take it off the table and put it back, then it's not a problem. Furthermore, again, it's only a problem if you're taking something off the table more than 4 amos here from the table. Aval toch arba amos less lanba. But if it's going to be within dalad amos, it's okay. Furthermore, again, it's only so that's necessary for the suda. Aval midi delot tzarach l'suda less lanba. But ultimately, again, if it's something not necessary for the suda, there's not a problem. Both say, bottom line, the take-home message is, just don't clear the table when someone's drinking. Right? That's the takeaway message. If someone's drinking, don't take stuff away from in front of them. Mar baravashi, kapid afilu, asisa ubuchna de tavli, midi de tzrich. We'll say, Samar baravashi was careful that when someone was drinking, he wouldn't even remove the mortar and pestle from the table. Right? So we'll say, the mortar and the pestle, which he used to grind up stuff, he wouldn't even take that off the table when somebody was drinking. Va'amar Abaye, Reish Havamina, Hadikanshi Nashva Mishum Mankirusa. Sabai says, I used to think that the reason you have to be careful to clean up crumbs, if you eat bread, the reason you have to be careful to clean up crumbs is a din in cleanliness. A din in cleanliness. But Amali Mar, then Mar told me there's another reason, Mishum Dikashi La'aniyusa. The Rabbi say, if you don't clean up your crumbs, unfortunately, again, it could lead to poverty. The Rabbi says, it's actually very interesting. Why does it lead to poverty? If a person goes ahead and has crumbs on their floor, and they trample over those crumbs, it shows a lack of regard for food. And a lack of regard for food almost creates like an ayin hara, that can chas v'shalom lead to poverty. Therefore, there's a hakpada to clean up your crumbs, not to walk on the crumbs, in order that it shouldn't lead to poverty. And the Gemara tells a story. Hu gavru dahava mahadra alei shardani yusa. Shardani yusa. We'll say there was a particular man, and the malach of poverty was trying to make him poor. Right? So the malach, the sar of poverty, was always hovering around him, looking for the opportunity to go ahead and make him poor. V'lo hava yachil lei. And ultimately, again, the malach, Alan, give it 1 minute. Listen to this. Right, then go. For the Haviyach, I know you're going to the Shiva Minyan, right? Thank you. For the Haviyach, the Havila Karazan, and she is Tuva. What's this? He wasn't able to go. He wasn't able to, right? So listen to this. The angel of poverty was hovering over this guy, and he wanted to make him poor. But he couldn't make him poor. Why, Rabbi say? Why? Because the guy always cleaned up his crumbs. He always cleaned up his crumbs. So listen to this. Yom achad havakarich lifta ivli. So we'll say one day, this guy was eating bread in the grass. So the malach of poverty says, today I got him. Why? Why? Because he's going to make crumbs. It's going to fall in the grass. And one thing is for sure, which is what? You can't clean up the grass, right? We could sweep up your floor. You can't clean up the grass. Now I'm going to get him. Da'achol, I see. So also what happens? Da'achol, basar da'achol. So the guy ate his bread. After he finished eating, I see mara. He took a shovel. Akrinu livli shadinu linara. He took a shovel. He dug up the soil where he ate, and he threw the soil into the river. So I'll say, what did he do? He cleaned up his crumbs. He cleaned up his crumbs. He made sure there were no crumbs lying around. He put them into the river. Shamei dekamar, he heard the malach crying out, Vai da'afki dehu gavra mi beise. The malach was crying, woe to me that this man has kicked me out of his house. So we'll say, what's the power of this story? I will say, you see over here that if you're careful with your crumbs, the malach of poverty has no power over you. But I will say, but what's the takeaway message? Little things matter a lot. Little things matter a lot. We often think that it's only the big things that we do in our Yiddishkeit that ultimately determine the nature of our spiritual identity and metal. It's not true. Even the little things we do, even the crumbs in Yiddishkeit, ultimately, again, are exceptionally meaningful. Okay. So as I said, now we go weiter. Abaye says, Vereish hava amina. We'll say incredible story. Vereish hava amina, haidelo shasi ufya. So Abaye says as follows. In the beginning of Oseh, apparently there's a din not to drink from the foam of a drink. If you have a drink, you shouldn't drink from the foam of the drink. So Abaye said in the beginning, I used to think the reason you shouldn't drink from foam is why? Mishum iyusa, because it's just disgusting, right? It doesn't look nice. It doesn't look nice to drink from the foam. So we'll say, but then what happens? Amrli Mar Mishum the Kashi the Karsam. But then Mar told me that ultimately, again, it's bad because it makes you sick. Now, specifically, again, makes you sick. Rashi says over here, Ririn Habam in Achotim, causes literally a runny nose, some type of sinus. So therefore the Gemara says, Mishta Kash Karsam, Mishta Kash Karsam, Minfach Be Kash Reisha. So listen to this. If you drink from the foam, it causes nasal problems. If you go ahead and you blow the foam to the side and then drink, it causes headaches. Midchie, if you move the foam to the side, kashya la'aniyusa, causes poverty. They will say, by the way, you see that apparently poverty comes about when what? When apparently you mistreat food. So moving the foam to the side means I take it off and I throw it on the ground. So a disregard of the foam, kind of like a disregard of the crumbs, results in poverty. Maitakanti, so we'll say ultimately again, so what should you do? So we'll say, I have a real problem. I can't drink the foam, I can't blow on the foam, and I can't move the foam to the side with my fingers. So what exactly should I'd like to drink at some point in time, so what should I do with the foam? To which the Gemara says, L'shake shakue. Ultimately, again, allow it to sink to the bottom. Wait. We'll say, so what's the message over here? What's the message? Patience. Patience. We'll say that sometimes if you want to avoid the pitfalls in life, you have to be patient. You have to allow the foam to settle to the bottom. Lekarsam chamra shichra. So we'll say, if you do drink the foam, now what's the remedy? So if you drank the foam of wine, so the remedy is drink beer. You have to love Yiddishkeit, right? Right? I'll say, so right, if you drank too much wine, the remedy for that is, or you drank the wine in the wrong way, drink some beer. Shichra, if you drank the foam of beer, drink water. Dimaya, if you drank the foam of water, less leitakanta. I will say the problem is if you drink the foam of water, you're stuck. You're just going to have to let it run its course. There's no takana for that. This is what people say, Basar anya azli aniyusa. Poverty follows the poor. Now, as I will say, a person who only has water is considered to be poor. If I don't have anything else to drink, I'm only drinking water, I'm considered poor. So poverty follows the poor. So Abai says, in the beginning I used to think that the reason you shouldn't eat a vegetable, I will say, so often when farmers would gather their vegetables, what they would do is they would tie the vegetables like in a bundle. So Abai says, I always knew you don't take a vegetable out of the bundle and eat it. Why not? I use the thing because like it looked like a shtickle ravenous. Like, wait, you don't have to take it out of the bundle. So the Amrli Mara, but then I learned that what? Mishum de kashi kshafim. There's another reason about say why it's problematic, which is because of sorcery. So apparently, again, about say, if a person goes ahead and eats a vegetable out of the bundle, they make themselves susceptible to sorcery. Rav Chisda v'Rabbi bar Avuna havu ka'azli ba'arba. So Rav Chisda and Rabbi bar Avua were traveling on a boat. Amrlu ahu matranisa. So there's a particular a noble woman who said to them, Osvan b'hadaycho, I'd like to travel with you on the boat. Lo osvua. So they did not they did not want her traveling on the boat. Probably because there was some issue with potential for immorality here. So therefore they decided they did not want her on the boat. Amra milsa asarta la'arba. So she went ahead and she whispered some type of incantation, and the boat was unable to move. Amru inhu milsa sharyuha. They said some type of incantation, and I will say what happened. They released the boat. So apparently, again, I was saying how they engaged in sorcery also has a whole discussion. Amar lahu, my aviluchu. The one became a little bit frustrated. She said, I have no hold over you. Why not? So I'll say, so she said, the two of you do not make yourselves susceptible to sorcery. You do not wipe yourselves with a shard. So as we saw in Mesechus Brachos, that those who use a pottery shard to wipe themselves, to clean themselves, make themselves susceptible to witchcraft or sorcery. You never killed the louse on your clothing, which apparently also makes you susceptible to sorcery. And you never eat the vegetable from the gardener's bundle. So we'll say, so that's the point of the story for us. That ultimately, again, apparently, eating a vegetable from the gardener's bundle is not just an issue in what? It's not just an issue in that mechsek ravanusa looks ravenous, but it's also a din that makes you susceptible, ultimately, again, to sorcery. Abai says, originally I thought that the reason you can't eat a vegetable that falls from the table onto the floor is because it's disgusting. It's not nice to eat food from the floor. But Mar said also because apparently once food falls on the ground, it causes a very bad odor in the mouth if you eat it. Abaye says, originally I thought that the reason why you can't go ahead and sit underneath Rabbosai a drain spout, it's like a gutter, underneath a gutter, is because shofchim, see Rabbosai, in Talmudic times, the gutters not only channeled rainwater, but remember again, they also channeled water that ran off of rooftops. Now on rooftops, people did all kinds of things, including what? Relieving themselves. So therefore, again, you never really wanted to sit under the downspout over there because you never knew what was coming down. But Amr Limar, Bishum the Shchichim Mazikim. There's another reason I will say why. Because often Shadim would make their home underneath these downspouts. Right? So we have to stop over here for today. We'll pick up in Mirza Hashem with the Shadim under the downspouts in Mirza Hashem tomorrow.